Are you unsure on how to use some of these new Pokemon competitively? Well, allow me to lend you a helping hand. Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Baxcalibur, which is the pseudo-legendary of the region. I really like this Pokemon. I think it's really cool. It gives me like Tyranitar vibes. Now it has the Dragon Ice typing, which is the same as Kyurem, so that's pretty interesting. Kyurem, as we know, is quite the threat. And Ice not being the best thing defensively has actually been buffed this generation, both by the change to Hail and by the fact that you can change your typing from Ice. So the stats are pretty decent. We can see the mon has pretty good bulk. That seems to be a running theme this generation. We have a base HP of 115, which is very, very solid, and a monstrous attack stat of 145. This mon packs a punch, especially with its signature move that we'll get into a little later. You do not want to switch into this thing if you do not resist Dragon. The defense and special defense are actually pretty solid, especially paired with that HP. This is a very bulky mon. The special attack is quite low. I wouldn't really recommend using it. And the speed is not great, but in this current metagame, it's actually not that bad. You outspeed things like Goldengo, Ceruledge, Armarouge. You have a decent speed. And 87 is actually a pretty magical number, and I'll talk about that when we get into the first set. Now, Baxcalibur has an ability called Thermal Exchange. This ability is kind of crazy. This ability will raise your attack by 1 stage if you're hit by a fire move, and you also can't be burned. That is very, very strong. A physical attacker that cannot be burned is terrifying, especially when they risk boosting your attack just by hitting you with fire moves. This is so strong. Now, the hidden ability is Ice Body, which is good on Hail teams. You can get a bit of healing, but honestly, every set we're going to talk about today is going to be using a Thermal Exchange. It's just too good an ability on a physical attacker. Speaking of sets, let's dive into the first one. This set is really strong, and a very similar set to this was actually run to hit rank 1 on the VGC ladder. In this set, we're maximizing bulk, and as I mentioned, that 87 speed is a very magical number. Well, you see, the fastest, most relevant Pokemon in the metagame is Dragapult. A Dragapult with a plus speed nature caps out at 213 speed, meaning that if you wanted to outspeed that Pokemon under Tailwind, you would need 107 speed. Enter the 87 speed. If you have 31 IVs and you're level 50, you will have a 107 speed from an 87 speed stat, meaning with no investment, you'll actually outspeed Dragapult under Tailwind. We threw in an extra 4 EVs there to speed creep the things that are also trying to reach the same speed level. We've thrown the rest of the EVs into HP and attack. This gives us a lot of bulk and a lot of power, while also giving us good speed under Tailwind. Because of that natural speed stat, we're able to run an adamant nature and just get the most out of our attack stat, which makes this thing hit so incredibly hard. Now, if you weren't playing under Tailwind, this build may not work for you, but I think it's very strong, and I highly recommend throwing it on a team with Tailwind support. We're using Thermal Exchange because we can't be burned, which is too amazing to pass up, and we're running the Clear Amulet. Arcanine can't really stop this thing. You can't burn it, you can't intimidate it if we're running the Clear Amulet. This Pokemon is really hard to stop. And I love the combination of Thermal Exchange and the Clear Amulet. We're going Terra Dragon, and I'll get into why. We're going to be running the signature move Glaive Rush. Now, Glaive Rush is a dragon attack with a base power of 120. This is essentially close combat but dragon. The only resist to this is a steel type, and the only immunity is a fairy. You can hit everything in the game other than those neutral with this move. The only drawback is the next turn you will receive double damage, and that's why we have Protect. With this comes a really interesting mind game. Most people are going to assume that after the Glaive Rush you're going to Protect, so a lot of the time they won't even attack into you. Will they take that risk if you're carrying Swords Dance? That's where the scary part comes in. You do not want to let this Pokemon get a free +2, especially when you can't intimidate or burn it. A +2 Terra Dragon Glaive Rush is so absurdly terrifying. It will OHKO something like Amoonguss. You just don't want to let that happen if you can avoid it. Now, we're running Ice Shard for priority, as this is a build that relies on Tailwind, and if we don't have the Tailwind up, we still want to have the offensive threat with our priority move, especially especially if we were able to get off a Swords Dance or two throughout the game. Now the next build here is a little more interesting. This doesn't rely on Tailwind, this is a Dragon Dance set. Most things on this build are pretty much the same. We're running the Clear Amulet to avoid being intimidated, we have Thermal Exchange to avoid the burns. We also have Terra Dragon to be able to get those boosted Glaive Rushes off. Though on this set we're not running Priority, we're running Icicle Crash. The reason for that is this set is less reliant on support for speed, because we have Dragon Dance. Dragon Dance gives you +1 in speed and attack, and that's what we're going to use on this set to kind of get set up and just overpower our opponent. This is obviously best used with something with redirection, like an Amoonguss with Rage Powder, Indeedee with Follow Me, Mousehold Follow Me, etc, etc. Now unlike the previous build where we were able to go Adamant, on this build we need to go Jolly. That's because we want to hit 143 speed, so that with one Dragon Dance we outspeed Dragapult. We reach the speed we needed Tailwind for in the previous build just by getting off one Dragon Dance. So for that we've thrown in 180 EVs into speed, we've put 4 into defense and special defense so we don't waste any points, we've maximized our attack and just thrown the rest into HP to maximize the bulk. This thing's pretty hard to remove, and if it gets set up, it can be really scary for the opponents. Baxcalibur is definitely a Pokemon to fear. Next we have a pretty interesting set. So this set is a Choice Band set. We're still running Thermal Exchange because we don't want to be burned. This is going to be on every single one of these builds. There are definitely builds that you can make with Ice Body, but I won't be going over those today as I just believe this ability is better in most cases. We're running the Choice Band, which will lock us into a move, but it will give us a 50% boost in damage on that move. Now, the Terra on this one's a little different, and it's Terra Grass. The reason for that is we don't want to be annoyed by Amoongusses. We don't want the Amoonguss to get a Spore on us and stop us from attacking, and we don't want to be Rage Powdered and redirected, we just want to hit what we want to hit. Though Amoonguss may not want to switch into us because a Choice Band Icicle Crash completely one-shots the thing. Now, you might be wondering why the EVs aren't maxed, and you could max them. You could put max speed, max attack, and you'd be just fine. But the reason that I put the 244 is simply because that's enough speed to outspeed both Gholdengo and Cerulege. And we have Crunch and Earthquake, which hit both of those Pokemon super effectively, whichever stab Terra they transform into. And if Cerulege was to go Grass, well, we have the Icicle Crash. This set is more about getting on the field and immediately dishing out the damage, unlike the previous two that were more based around setup. This set here is actually pretty interesting. We're running an Assault Vest. Because of this Pokemon's amazing natural bulk, Assault Vest actually lets it live things that you wouldn't expect. For example, Gholdengo can never 2-hit KO you with Make It Rain when you're running this EV spread and an Assault Vest, even though it's hitting you for super effective damage. Now that's kind of insane. Now that's what these 68 EVs in special defense are for, and then we've put the rest in just HP and defense to really maximize the bulk, and we're running an Adamant Nature. This is to still give us a pretty big boost to attack so we can still dish out some really good damage. We're running our dual stabs in Glaive Rush and Icicle Crash, and we're running Stomping Tantrum to hit those steel types. We could run Earthquake, but we don't want to hinder our team here. This is definitely something that you can change on your own builds though. And we're again running Ice Shard for priority as we don't have too much speed on this build. We want to finish off those Pokemon with Focus Sashes or get those KOs on just those low health targets. This Pokemon does get some other really good moves such as Iron Head. You can definitely throw on here for fairies, but I've had more success running builds like these. Next up is a singles set. Now, you can run a lot of different sets in singles, and a lot of them are pretty effective. Even the ones I've shown here are pretty good there. You just replace Protect with another attacking move. Though this one here is the most fun I've had. I tried this out on Pokemon Showdown and I was having a blast. This set is again running Thermal Exchange just like all of them, though we're Terra Ice this time. And you may think that's a bit crazy since it's such a bad defensive type. Well, you see, on this set we're running Icicle Spear with the loaded dice. The loaded dice will ensure the Icicle Spear hits 5 times on the first turn it's used. This is a consumable item, so if we Dragon Dance up and we use Glaive Rush and Earthquake to take out most threats, we have the option of a Terra Ice guaranteed 5-hit Icicle Spear to completely nuke an opponent that wants to try to stop us. This set is so fun and so strong. It feels so good to just completely wipe something out of your way with what's essentially a Z move. I really like Baxcalibur. I think it's got a lot of merit. I think it's a really good Pokemon. It's a great pseudo-legendary, and it's welcome in my Pokemon games for sure. What do you think of Baxcalibur? Is it one of your favorite pseudo-legendaries already, or is it Pokemon you don't think too much of? It's just kind of there. Because I know that some people just may not like it. Let me know in the comments below, and let me know which sets you've been trying out on this Pokemon, and let me know if you intend to try any of these out. As always guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.